Hello and welcome back to Tales from the World's Firesides. I'm Clive Gilson, the story guy, and today we are heading to France for our story. As you know, I try to find and preserve old folk tales, really as a way of sharing cultures across the world as well as preserving them. So why not settle in and join me today as we share the story, The White Inn. The White Inn. Once upon a time there was an inn at Pont-Neuf, known from its appearance as the White Inn. The people who kept it were both good and honest, and they were known to be punctual at their Easter duties, and no one ever thought of counting money after them. It was at the White Inn that travellers would stop to sleep, and horses knew the place so well that they would draw up of their own accord before the stable door. The headsman of the harvest had brought in short, gloomy days, and one evening, as Floche, the landlord, was standing at the White Inn door, a traveller, evidently of importance, and mounted on a splendid foreign steed, reined up his horse, and lifting his hand to his hat, said courteously, "I want a supper and a bedchamber." Floche drew first his pipe from his mouth, and then his hat from his head, and answered, "God bless you, sir, a supper you shall have, but as to a room, we cannot give it to you, for we have now above 6 muleteers on their way home to Breton, who have taken all of the beds of the White Inn." The traveller then said, "For God's sake, my good man, contrive for me to sleep somewhere. The very dogs have a kennel, and it is not fitting that Christians be without a bed in such weather as this." "Sir stranger," said the host remorsefully, "I can only tell you that the inn is full, and we have no place for you but the Red Room." "Well, give me that," replied the stranger. But the landlord rubbed his forehead and looked grieved, for he could not let the traveller sleep in the Red Chamber. "Sir, since I have been at the White Inn," said he at last, "only 2 men have ever occupied that room, and on the morrow, black as had been their hair the night before, they rose with it, snow white." The traveller looked full at the landlord. "Then your house is haunted by the spirits from another world?" he asked. It is," faltered the landlord. "Then, God and the Blessed Virgin be merciful to me, I will sleep there, but make me a fire and warm my bed, for I am cold." The landlord did as he was ordered. When the traveller had finished supper, he bade good night to all at table and went up to the Red Chamber. The landlord, meanwhile, and his wife trembled and began to pray. Now the stranger, having reached his room, began to look about him. It was a large flame-coloured chamber with great shining stains upon the walls that might well have been taken for the marks of fresh spilt blood. At the further end there stood a 4-post bed surrounded by heavy curtains. The rest of the room was empty, and the mournful whistling of the wind came down the chimney and the corridors, and sounded like the cries of souls beseeching prayers. The traveller, kneeling down, prayed silently to God, then fearlessly got into bed, and soon slept soundly. However, at the very moment when the hour of midnight sounded from a distant church tower, he suddenly awoke, heard the curtain rings sliding on their iron poles, and saw them open at his right hand. He was going to get out of bed, but his feet struck against something cold, and he recoiled in terror. There stood before him was a coffin with 4 lighted candles at the corners, and covered with a great black pall that glittered as if covered in tears. The stranger turned to try the other side of his bed, but the coffin instantly changed places and barred his way out as before. 5 times he made an effort to escape, and every time the bier was there beneath his feet with the candles and the funeral pall. The traveller then knew it was a ghost who had some boon to ask, and kneeling up in bed, he made the holy sign and spoke, saying, Who are you, departed one? Speak. A Christian listens to you. A voice answered from the coffin. I am a traveller, murdered here by those who kept this inn before its present owner. I died unprepared, and now I suffer in purgatory. What do you need, suffering soul, to give you rest? I want 6 masses said at the church of Our Lady of Folktale, and also a pilgrimage made for my intention by some Christian to Our Lady of Rumengol. No sooner had these words been uttered than the lights went out, the curtains closed, and all was silence. The stranger spent the night in prayer. The next morning, he told the landlord everything and said, My good friend, I am Monsieur de Rohan, of family as noble as the noblest now in Brittany. I will go and make the pilgrimage to Rumengol, and I will see that the 6 masses shall be said. Trouble yourself no more, for this suffering soul shall rest in peace. Within the short space of 1 month, the Red Room had lost its crimson hue and become white and cheerful, just like the other rooms in the inn. No sound was heard there but the swallows twittering in the chimney, and nothing could be seen but a fair white bed, a crucifix, and a vessel of holy water. The traveller had kept his word. 5. And so ends another story. Stories like this always remind me that people have always found ways to tell stories that touch our hearts and minds in so many different ways, but ways that we can all understand. Now, you can explore my world of collected tales in print via the link below, and also at my brand new website, worldfiresidetales.com, where you can get more information about the project, and also visit the archive, where we're increasingly building up hundreds of tales for people to read for free. If you're curious about the storyteller behind the mic, drop by clivegilson.com. I'm always glad to collect. And if today's tale did stir something in you, then please do subscribe, share your thoughts below, and pass on the links to friends. Thank you, as ever, for joining me at Tales from the World's Firesides. I've been Clive Gilson, the Story Guy, and take care until we next share a story or two.